Welcome back, guys, to We Talk Boxing. And this is the post-fight review of the Lomachenko versus Jarmaine Ortiz fight, which saw this fight turn out to be a fairly good, very competitive fight between both guys in the end. And obviously, I'll talk a little bit more about that in the review. Now, as always, before I continue with this video, please like, subscribe for more boxing-related content and help us grow this channel even further. So this fight now sees Vasily Lomachenko take his boxing record to 17 wins with 2 losses to his name. Whilst his opponent, on the other hand, do you know what I mean? Again, he takes his boxing record to 16 wins with 1 loss and 1 draw to his name. Now, you know what I mean, my pre-fight review, you know what I mean, I honestly thought this was going to be a fairly easy and straightforward fight for Vasily Lomachenko. I honestly thought he was gonna, you know what I mean, probably stop his opponent within, I'd probably say the first half of the fight, by just, you know what I mean, overloading him, bamboozling him with his footwork and his hand speed and his combinations. But it just didn't turn out to be that easy for him, and it was a hard fight for him in the end. And you know what I mean, for me, even though I thought, you know what I mean, Vasily was going to win quite early and quite easy, I also knew, you know what I mean, this fight was going to be a good gauge to see exactly where Lomachenko is, you know what I mean, because he is returning to the ring after having, you know what I mean, a sustained amount of time outside of the ring. So for me, it was always going to be a good gauge to see where he is. Do you know what I mean? And to kind of let us know, you know what I mean? Has he been doing much? Has he been training? Has he been sparring and keeping fit inside the ring? And honestly, do you know what I mean? I'd probably say he hasn't, to be fair. You know what I mean? Obviously, his mind and stuff like that and has been focused elsewhere with the Ukraine and Russia conflict. But personally, obviously, he got the win in the end. You know what I mean? It was a tough fight. You know what I mean? Very tough fight because the scorecards, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Say it all, really. You know what I mean? One judge scored it 115 to 113, another one 116 to 112, and then the last judge obviously 117 to 111. But you know what I mean, when you were watching the rounds, you know what I mean, it was a tough fight. You know what I mean, from the get go, from round one, it was just, you know what I mean, it was just hard for Vasily, and you could see he wasn't the same Vasily that we all come to know, really. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see exactly where he goes from here. I think I know where he goes, but honestly, I wouldn't want to see that straight away. And I think mainly the reason why I wouldn't want to see him versus Devin Haney fight straight away is because, you know what I mean? For me, Vasily got caught with way more punches than I've seen him ever pretty much got caught with, really. And he just didn't look himself, you know what I mean? His movement was slow, and you know what I mean, he didn't really have that same angular movement that we always come to see, and his combinations were quite basic at times. Just couldn't really put his hands together, which was a shame because the young man, you know what I mean, Ortiz, you know what I mean, he come out, you know what I mean, from the get go, round one, and he was pulling it to Vasily. And for me, he just looked a lot sharper. You know what I mean? He looked quicker, he looked stronger, he looked way bigger than Vasily as well, which was surprising because I was thinking, like, how are these guys the same weight? Do you know what I mean? Like, his opponent just looked like a monster compared to Vasily. And yeah, as I says, his lateral movement, you know what I mean, and his speed, which we all come to know, just was null and void. But one thing you have to kind of take out of this fight as a positive for Loma is that he showed good durability. And I know most of you are probably thinking, wow, he showed that before. And I know he has, because obviously when he fought against Lopez, do you know what I mean? Like, he, he showed very good durability because, you know what I mean, he didn't get knocked out or anything. Obviously, he lost. He lost on obviously points and stuff like that against Teofimo Lopez. So realistically, he has got good durability, but it's still, you know, it's just good to see that, you know what I mean, he was in there, you know what I mean, for the full 12 rounds with this young and hungry fighter. Do you know what I mean? And he took some big shots, and he stood his ground at times. And it did take him like a bit of time to kind of work his way through the fight and kind of work out his opponent's style and stuff. But for me, he kind of got through that, really. Jarmaine Ortiz, you know what I mean? A lot of credit has to go to him really, because realistically, you know what I mean, him and Loma, they were sparring partners for the Colmate fight. Do you know what I mean? And obviously both guys would have known each other's style quite well. But realistically, you know what I mean, he obviously learned a lot from that sparring sessions that he had with Vasily, and he showed in the ring that, you know what I mean, like he can match it with him, because realistically he didn't really look out of place. I mean, as I said earlier, he started the fight fast and he put it on Loma. And for me, he probably edged, you know what I mean, the first two, maybe three rounds of the fight quite comfortably. Do you know what I mean? By just working that a little bit more and putting Loma off his game. Do you know what I mean? Loma, as we all know, starts slow. Do you know what I mean? Because he likes to try and work out his opponents before he kind of gets going and stuff. But obviously Loma, you know what I mean, is a slow starter, and he did in the end, you know what I mean, manage to come, you know what I mean, he started getting into the fight from round three onwards, but it was all Ortiz really, do you know what I mean? And like it was smart boxing from him. And the good thing that I liked is that his movement, you know what I mean, was very good, and he was hurting Loma at times with some good punches and stuff. And every time both guys were up close, Ortiz would, you know what I mean, try these slides, you know what I mean, little nifty, you know what I mean, uppercuts and hooks, just trying to land, you know what I mean, these short punches onto Loma really, which was a good tactic because it put him off his game. So anyway, you know what I mean? I don't really want to long this video out too much, but overall, it was a very good competitive fight, especially for a return fight. Do you know what I mean? I honestly didn't think it was going to be this competitive, but these rounds will do, you know what I mean, Loma good, because realistically, in the next you know what I mean, couple of months or so, he's going to be in bigger fights because he's that sort of fighter, and realistically, you can't really be taking these, you know what I mean, ranked 15 fighters and stuff like that. You have to be fighting some of the best fighters in his division. However, for me, I feel as if, you know what I mean, one more fight is needed for Loma just before he tries to take on a Haney, because he just needs to kind of build up his, you know what I mean, his match sharpness, his movement, his stamina, and just, you know what I mean, just let loose some of those cobwebs, because what I don't want to see is a 50 or maybe 70% Lomachenko go in there with a young, hungry, talented, and excellent boxer in Haney, where realistically Haney was there. He was sat down at ringside, and he was licking his lips, because he was thinking, you know what, if I step in the ring with Loma next, I'm gonna eat him. Do you know what I mean? And because he looked slow, he didn't have the same movement. He was getting caught a lot. Do you know what I mean? Like, so for me, if I'm Loma's team, I'm thinking, you know what, let's try and get him out early next year, 2023, and try and get him, you know what I mean, maybe a top 10 opponent, but not one of the hungry dogs like, you know what I mean, Davis or Garcia. Do you know what I mean? Someone maybe ranked 8 or 9 or something like that in the division, just so that he could get some more minutes and try and build himself up a little bit. And then maybe in the summer of 2023, or maybe, you know what I mean, August, September times or something like that, you know what I mean, maybe try and take on a Haney. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Who would you like to see Lomachenko fight next? Would you like him to take on one of the bigger boys in the division? Maybe a Haney, or maybe someone like a Garcia? You know what I mean? He hasn't got a fight at the minute. Anyway, as always, please subscribe, like and comment for more boxing related content. Bless.